Hey everybody, Movie next door here, and I'm back on another review. And this time I Spit on Your Grave 2. This is, let me readjust that. This is a revenge film, a horror film directed by Stephen R. Monroe from 2013, and it stars Gemma Delender, Joe Absalom, Alexander Alexiev, Yahar Baharov, Mary Stockley, and Peter Silverleaf. In this film, sorry about that, my hair is a mess. In this film, and in desperate need to update her portfolio, New York City model Katie calls a number from a tear-off flyer offering free photos. But this innocent attempt quickly turns into an unthinkable kidnapping nightmare where she's ripped away from everyone and everything she knows. So, what did I think of I Spit on Your Grave 2? Well, if you've been watching my videos on the series, you will know that I absolutely despise the original. I think it is probably one of the worst things I've ever seen. Again, I haven't seen every movie, so do with that what you will. Um, I legitimately found little to no things I could compliment in it. And in the remake, I was like, oh, this is actually an enjoyable watch. Yes, it still has the rape stuff, which isn't the great. I'm not a fan of that genre, but I was like, okay, there's some fun to be had, or okay, entertainment from the revenge portion, and there's some good horror feel, and a lot of the psychological elements I think worked a lot better than the rape did. This film, I did not care for. I didn't. Um, I feel like all of the lessons that the remake learned from the original were disregarded by this film. Um, it has a higher budget, yet it doesn't look it, uh, for the most part. And it's just overall a big downgrade. And again, I'll get into depth. Again, I have to talk about pretty much everything that this film does in the way of events. So again, spoilers and content warning. I, I I don't usually give a fuck about content warnings, but it is a tough subject. But let me get to the cast. Gemma Delender plays Katie. Again, she's a model. She's okay most of the time, but when it gets to the revenge stuff, she does not sell it. Like I don't know if she doesn't have the right direction because Sarah Butler in the original or in the remake was really good. Here, yeah, this Gemma girl, she's been in a few other films. Uh She was in Contract to Kill with Steven Seagal, which I've seen videos about, and looking at her acting in that, she just doesn't seem super talented. But yeah, she's not great here for the most part. During the first half of the film, I think she's all right. But yeah. Um, Joe Absalom plays Ivan, one of the rapists. He's okay, but mostly forgettable. Alexander Alexiev plays Nikolai. He's the crazy one. He's okay. Yahor Baharov plays Georgie. Again, okay. There's really not much I can say about him. Mary Stockley plays Anna. She's the uh, she's I'll have to talk about her character in a sec. But Jesus Christ. And Peter Silverleaf plays Valko. He's evil. There you go. One thing that this film fucks up from the last one, I would agree with a lot of people that the characters in the last film, in the origin or in the remake, are kind of stereotypical. stereotypical backwoods, like hillbilly characters. I can agree there. But at least during the assault scenes and the psychological stuff, I bought them as being threatening. And each of them had like a thing. Like one of them, again, the fat one recorded everything. The one guy that's kind of handsome looking, looks can be deceiving. Johnny is very manipulative, I'd say. And the sheriff is, well, I mean, okay, Michael, I think, or the one who's mentally handicapped, that's his thing. And the sheriff is kind of the ringleader. Here, it's like it's really hard to tell who I'm supposed to hate the most because you have Georgie who is like, is he supposed to be mentally handicapped? It's again like the character in the remake that's supposed to be mentally handicapped, I could tell, and I think the actor did a good job playing it. In the original, this is reminding me of the original, and that's not a good thing. A lot of this reminds me of the original. Um, Yahar Baharov, it feels like he's doing like a really jokey interpretation of mentally handicapped or like psychotic, something like that, because apparently he like doesn't even realize what he's doing, some shit like that. And it's just really an annoying character. Joe Absalom's Ivan, fuck if I know. Ivan is the ringleader at first, and then it's the fat guy, and then it's this woman, and and that's a big part of my issue with this film. At least with the original or with the remake, the sheriff is comes in, and it's like, okay, he's the one rounding these guys together. It made it a bit more interesting, a bit more concise. You knew who was the ringleader, and you wanted to see them get what they deserved. But this one is very unfocused when it comes to our villains, and I do have to say that did annoy the shit out of me. Um, the okay, so remember I was on the original, there's like 30 minutes of rape. This film doesn't hit that, but it does a really nasty thing that I actually really despise this film for doing. So she goes to do the modeling thing, and then I guess they have their address somehow. Georgie goes back to her house, rapes her there. She's knocked unconscious and given like ketamine and shit. So I guess, oh, the extra despair of she has drugs in her system. And oh my God, they like, she's transported to Bulgaria some fucking how. They never explain how she was transported to Bulgaria. I'm pretty sure they for like human traffickers or something. I don't know. This is not a good film to teach people about human trafficking and how it works. Uh, but she wakes up as she's being raped, and then later, like, she escapes, and then this woman at the police station is like, I can take you home, I can help you, and then it's revealed that she's like the mother of these guys, or so we think. And I don't get to that because that's a really stupid plot twist. Um, and when just when you think she's safe, and this like grief counselor or this counselor for women is actually gonna help her, she brings her back, and then she gets raped again, and then she she gets buried, and then the chest that she's buried in falls through the floor into this, I guess I guess it's an aqueduct or like a sewer system where she like becomes a survivalist all of a sudden, which they kind of establish it when she helps a guy catch a mouse, but it's still kind of like what? And yeah, from then on, the revenge happens. So the whole like bait and switch of just when you think that she's gonna get out, she gets brought back. I didn't care for that. I don't think that was a as much of a like it more so felt like they were like, oh yeah, we needed more rape in the film, which we didn't. If you're gonna have it, I'd say the most you should have it happen is one or two times, if even that. And again, you don't have to have it on screen, but here, the way it's shot here feels a lot more like the original, where it feels just like, I hate to say it like this, but sexualized. In the remake, I think they did a really good job of making it come off as like this brutal act. Here, it's more like fetishy, and especially the bit where one of the guys pees on her. I'm like, really? We don't need this. It just comes off tacky. And like, I get it. Just have it happen once or twice. That's it. You don't need a significant chunk of this film. Again, like the first, is spent here with this character. And I don't think I just did not care for how it was done. Um, but even the revenge isn't that interesting. That's a big thing. The remake had really interesting revenge stuff. The guy with the fish hooks through his eyes, and having the birds peck out his eyes because was fish on his face. The one guy falling into the bath of lye and his face melting off and him dying. Johnny bleeding out to death from his dick being chopped off. Uh, the sheriff with the shotgun up his ass, which I was like, okay, that was actually fucking interesting. I'd never seen that before. And then the mentally handicapped one getting up and then getting shot in the chest when the shotgun shoots through the sheriff's mouth. I was like, okay, that was interesting. I liked it. Here, it is mostly gross out horror, which is one of my least favorite things. Now, at least in something like Terrifier, it was honest about what it was doing because I knew what the first one was. And the second one had a bit of a better story, more interesting characters that I actually cared about, um, better acting in many cases. Even though I thought Jenna Cannell in the first one was pretty good, I wasn't a fan of what happened with that character, um, how they treated her. Um, but here, basically our revenge is boiled down to George she kidnaps Georgie, brings him underground and starts like cutting at him and then I think rubbing shit into his wounds, sure, to make them like I guess to infect them, and and basically just leaving him there and just taunting him and shit. She finds Nikolai at the club, dunks his head into a toilet full of piss, and then a toilet full of shit. And this is where her worst fucking acting in the movie is, where she's like, "I want you to swallow," and just it doesn't work. Like I do not buy her being a badass. Sarah Butler in the remake, yes, I buy her being a badass in the second half, where she's obviously changed in a way. Her character has changed, and you can tell. through her acting, and she's very confident with that character. Here, it does not work at all with her. I like no hate to Gemma DeLender. I feel like she might have just been not the best pick for this character. She works as a model. She looks like a model. Yes, but I don't buy her as a model turning into a vigilante. She kidnaps Valko and ties him to a bed, shocks him with the prod like he did to her. Like he put it like in places, you know. She does it to his crotch, and then she does it in his mouth, and then she sticks something down his throat, which I think has like chain, like a razor or something at the end. And she turns it on, and it like fucks up his insides, and then she shocks it, and then he dies. And like I think the back of his head, I don't know. That was the one part where I was like, okay, deserved, enjoyable. The rest of it is gross out. Uh, s- uh, bleh. I'm so tired of talking about this movie already. Uh, Georgie. Well, she kidnaps Anna, and then we find out something about Anna's character. Ivan has his balls in a vice, and she turns it until his balls pop out. Cool. And the cop comes down. Oh yeah, Georgie dies from his infections in front of his mother. Um, and there's a weird plot twist. I think I get it. So Anna apparently isn't their actual mother. She's just a woman that, from what they said, I think she's just a woman who Valko was raping, and then in order to get him to stop doing stuff to her, she would bring him clients from her job as a like women's group person, like for like exploited women, which I guess that's what they were going for, which does make her the most disgusting person here, which is hard to do. So basically, she just gets traumatized by watching her son, but I don't even know who her son is. I don't even know if he is her son. She seems very torn up about it, but they never really explain who he is to her, and it just makes me feel like maybe the script was a bit incomplete. And then the cop sees what happened, realizes that, oh, he failed her, and he ends up shooting Ivan because Ivan comes up and tries to strangle her. And then she goes home. And yeah, this movie is nowhere near as interesting as the remake. It's a tiny bit better than the original, but that's not saying much because the original, I think, is useless as a film in every single way. Um, Again, this film does go for shock value and gross out horror above anything else, and I hate gross out horror, especially if there is no real point to it. Somebody might, I've seen people in Letterboxd try to argue how this is a good film. I still don't agree. I don't see why any film, even a revenge film, would need a significantly long rape scene. Law Abiding Citizen, a revenge film that I like up until I love. I love Law Abiding Citizen up to a point, and if I do ever review it, I would talk about that. But the way this film goes about, like in that film, there is technically a rape scene, but it's off camera and it's more sold by Gerard Butler's performance that he's reacting to it. But um here again, it's just, oh, show don't tell. Uh, well, it's show don't tell in the worst way, where you could have, instead of showing the rape, show somebody's facial expressions reacting to it, or s- just something else. Just allude to it. You don't need this on camera unless there's literally not enough story for the film. Maybe that's the issue. Maybe there isn't enough story for an hour and a half long film, and this film's an hour and 46 minutes. Maybe you could have cut down a lot of the rape scene and had more of the film be the revenge portion. Be more interesting. The only real things I can give to this film are, yeah, the first half. Gemma Delender, I think, is doing an all right job. The musical score from Corey Allen Jackson. I think he did the first film score as well. Was pretty all right. Uh, and the film has a couple all right shots. Again, Stephen R. Monroe, I think, is still interesting enough director. His style from the first is still here. The whole like cutting to black thing, but it it's still not enough to raise this above just being a bad horror film. But yeah, that was my review. Put on your grave too. If you've seen the film, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. If you have any recommendations, put them down there as well. And movie reviewer next door out.